Jasper,
What?
get in the frame.
I don't want to.
Come on, please. You promised about this.
This is humiliating, Mira.
It's not.
It's humiliating.
It's cute.
Look at me.
What's wrong?
Are you kidding me?
You're a cute little bunny.
Are you kidding me? You know how much work was put into this
Yeah,
to make me
I
look like a
worked really
fool?
hard on that. It's a whole theme today.
What's the theme?
So, we're felting. It's needle felting, okay?
Okay.
You can handle that?
Kind of. Everything's itchy right now.
Okay, but it looks good. Don't
Okay,
shake around so much.
Okay, sorry.
Welcome back, episode 2. We did it.
We kind of did it. I don't like this, but it's okay.
It's funny and it's cute. You look cute.
Okay.
You have
I'll get you back
success.
later.
Yeah, you always say that. Alright. Have you ever heard of needle felting?
I have, actually, because of you.
I know. So the reason why I decided to dress up as a bunny, because it's spring, and spring means Easter, and it means new life and flowers. And
Hay fever.
yeah, I hate it all. So today's episode, needle felting. For those of you who've never heard of it, it's this adorable felting of wool. Raw wool. Is it raw wool? I think it's raw wool.
I'm not sure, but
They
it
call
looks
it
really
roving
nice.
wool. It sounds really old lady-ish, but
Wow, it looks nice.
all right. We're gonna show you the tutorial. That's what today is. I'm gonna make a little penguin.
Oh, what does that have to do with spring?
Well, see, it's a bird. Baby birds, and I don't know.
Okay.
It's all over the place. It's just cute. Penguins are cute. Spring.
It makes about as much sense as putting all this stuff on me.
This makes sense to me.
No.
Okay, here we go with the tutorial. So here I'm pulling out the black roving wool to start on the penguin's body. And I'm just rolling it into a tight, sort of ovular shape, tucking in the ends so that you get them nice and round like the head and the butt of the penguin. And you just start poking. So basically this helps just build the the original beginning shape. It catches all the fibers, so it kind of locks in and a little bit easier to work with than having all these kind of loose hairs and folding and poking and etc, etc. So just roll it in a tight ball, start poking away. It's a lot like sculpting, which is really nice and gives you kind of a lot of freedom to kind of add and build, but it's a lot harder to pull any away. So just, if you're starting out, add a little, poke again, add a little, poke again to get the right shape. So here you can see me, I'm just poking away. We sped up that it's easier to get through this part because this actually takes a good amount of time, especially if you want to get the shape of it nice and tight. So that's what I'm showing you here. It's still quite spongy and loose and squishy, and you can see the other penguin, when I push on it, it's a lot firmer. I find that the easiest to work with to get the main shape as hard as possible, essentially, by just poking away. So once you're kind of around the shape that you like, feel around for any sort of loose bits. You'll feel some of the fibers might kind of squish in a little bit more, so you want to get that part poked in to create an overall consistent, I guess, hardness, because once you start adding details, those softer bits will squish in more, and then it could deform the shape of your project, and you don't want that. Looks like it's a little bit smaller than the other guy, so I'm adding a little bit more roving wool to the body. This is Corriedale roving wool I picked up at a shop locally. It's really nice. It's about mid-range price, but I'll put all the details about the materials I used in my blog post about this, just so that it's easier to kind of read about and that kind of thing. So adding a little bit more, just trying to create the shape. I want to get the ends, like so the top of the head and the bottom of the body round, so I've kind of wrapped the end around, kind of like when you're rolling a taco and you pull the side bits in so nothing falls out. That's kind of what I'm doing. Poking, it's just a lot of poking. Be careful, watch where you put your fingers in your other hand that's holding the piece, because yeah, I've poked myself a ton of times and it's not fun. That is a very sharp needle. And you also don't want like blood on your project. So it looks like it's getting to be closer to the size I'm looking for. Just getting it, again, all the same hardness, I guess. So it looks like we're where we want to be. I walk away here because I'm trying to get a piece of white paper so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm working with here. The dark table kind of blurred the details of my dark penguin. Alright, so I'm squishing away to feel kind of where it's loose still. After adding that extra roving wool, it's added a little bit more kind of cushion. So I've got to poke in where it's loose. Again, just because it's the easiest to get a nice hard body first and then add details. You don't want the details to misshape your final project. So that is a lesson I learned from kind of teaching myself how to felt. More squishing, more feeling around. This is the most important part of the project. Once you put the details in, it's a lot easier to work with, I guess, and the details are a little bit more flexible with, you know, what you can add and that kind of thing. So here it's a little bit squishy here, so I'm gonna go in, tighten it up, and just keep tightening it up till it feels the way I want it to. I love that you can see the bag of candy that I have at my desk. So I use the coarser size needle when I'm building this main body up, and then I use a fine needle for the details. The coarse needle kind of, you can see the puncture holes, and then the finer one kind of cleans up those holes so you don't see them as much. I'm starting my work here now on the white part of the penguin. I just pull off, so you don't have to cut the roving wool at all, you can just pull it apart from each other. So pull off a little bit at a time, that's my best advice, so that you don't add too much, because like I said, it's too hard to pull any away. Like, you can build up, but taking away is a lot harder. And I always start my kind of detail parts on the sponge first before I stick it on the body, so I can kind of see if I'm building the shape right, if I'm getting what I want it to look like before I add it to the penguin, or add it to any project. So just line it up and kind of poke in the overall sort of where you want it to stick, so you kind of have an idea of where the edges of your detail go and the center, and then you kind of just start poking from there. But that way it keeps the detail in the spots that you want it to be in while you work on it. And then just carry on poking. Again, don't worry too much about the loose fibers and the edges being kind of rough. You can tuck in, like I'm doing right there, to clean it up and get the right shape that you're looking for. And of course you can add more if it's, you know, kind of wobbly on one side or uneven on the other side. You can just keep adding, but that's why it's good to start a little bit at a time. And this is for the eyes, so just roll it up into like a circle. Kind of start poking at it there and add it to the penguin's body. Be careful when you are poking in on the sides of your details, because that's how I broke a needle before. It's not a delicate needle, but it can break very easily as well. I mean, you just have to be careful that it doesn't get tangled, because that's how I broke mine. So once you've got all your details on there like that, you want to just go in and kind of even everything out so that you don't see where, like, oh, you've added some here and there's not enough on the other side. You want to just poke in all your details so that it's as even as you can get it, so that it looks like you put it all in at the same time and not different, you know, a little bit at a time. It just makes it look a little bit cleaner. And that's what I'm kind of showing you. You can see where I've added and you can see where I didn't add on the other side. So I'm just trying to even it out so that you can see, you know, the same details on both sides. Cleaning up the edge. It's a lot of like sort of go kind of eyeballing as you go and adding and kind of poking in where you think it needs to. A lot of it is poking and cleaning it up, and that's like the main thing. Is I know when you're working on a project, you want to get it done as fast as possible, at least I do, but a lot of felting is just going in, poking and cleaning it up and that kind of thing, and then you end up with a lot tighter of a project in the end if you take the time while you're building it, step by step. Now we're starting on the pupils of the eyes, or the black part of the eyes. Take a very little amount with this step, because you can always keep adding. And what I do is I sort of roll it up in my hand and then poke the very middle where I want the middle of the eye to go, just to get the black part in, and then start kind of poking around and getting it as tight in there as possible, and making sure that it's nice and circular so that you don't have loose fibers, because that will take away from the shape and the actual expression of the eye itself. So then we're jumping over to the arms now, or I guess the fins, wings. Are they called wings on penguins? I don't know. They use them for swimming and not flying, so are they fins? The wing fins were a little bit harder because it's a thin, like paddle leg shape. So you kind of have to build it up on the sponge and then take it between your two fingers and slide the needle in carefully, but on an angle, just to tighten the fibers up to get it that nice kind of flat shape. I found that to be a little bit harder. You can actually wet your fingers and sort of tuck the fibers in that way. I find that water helps with that process. But keep the fins, the top of the fin, I guess, with like the roving wool kind of loose there, because you want to use that to poke it into the actual body of the penguin. And then that way you're not changing the shape of the fin. You're just attaching it to the penguin's body. Just cleaning it up here. Mostly because I don't want to get the white fibers tucked into the wing, and so you can see that it's pulling into the wing. You want it to be all black there. You don't want the colors to blend. At least I didn't want the colors to blend on this particular job too much. So like you can see, like I was saying, I've left the extra bits in the end so that I have that to poke into the penguin. Don't worry about having too much, because I trim it down. Obviously, like the parts that I don't need, I'll trim it off, and I don't try to poke all of that excess into the penguin, because it'll change the shape of the body, and we've already worked so hard on getting it the shape that we want it. We don't want to add more and have him have like some kind of lumpy brain on the top of his head. So here I'm just poking it in so that it's nice and smooth with the body. The fin doesn't pull off or yank off very easily. Trimming it down and then just poking in a little bit of excess. I decided not to put feet on the tutorial penguin just because when I was done I was like, oh, it looks cute without the feet. And that, the feet, it's just like adding the other rest of the body. It's really quite simple. So the details are kind of like, that's where you get the most freedom to sort of just kind of add and whatnot. So yeah, there's the wings. Looks cute. There you go. I think it looks good without the feet too.
No, it's itchy. Stay itchy. Stay itchy. Thanks everybody for watching wakkuwakku.com. That's www.
They didn't watch us.
Stop. You're not allowed to entrance yet. www.wakkuwakku.com. Thanks everybody. Please visit our blog. Please like, please subscribe. We want to see more of your comments. We want to see if you guys like our channel, because it might be going out of business.
Wait, man. Can I take this off?
Mara, we made a bet.
You think this is so funny?
We made a bet